Welcome to my channel, and let's talk about my March results. Definitely March was a mouse month, because when I got the springtime Magic Mouse book, I immediately fall in love, and I think that the biggest amount of my free time I dedicated to this cute mouse and his friends. I think that I was a little bit envious, because social life of this mouse is much more interesting comparing to my own. So that's probably why I colored so many pictures here. I finally stick to the color palette for the mouse fur and for the tiny worm. I decided to keep color palette which was selected by Morgan O'Brien for the worm. So now I just try to vary colors for the head and for the clothes of the mouse. So here I have my love letter. I wanted those roses to be focal point here. I think that mouse had quite pleasant evening, so I did very warm light inside of her house. And then there was this surprise delivery of love letter and those beautiful roses. So to make them focal point for the rest of the elements, I mostly select pastel colors, starting from her clothes and then all those flowers which decorate the entrance to the house. I think that mostly this month I used Prismacolor pencils only for a couple of the backgrounds. I also added my new Arctics pencils, which are actually quite close to Prismacolor in color palette. Many colors are definitely copied from Prismacolors, but I do love how intense and bright and soft they are, but they definitely don't blend as nicely as Prismacolors. So here I mostly use them for areas where I didn't need blending or layering, like fur for example. I use them on the areas where I simply needed to cover background here or this head. I actually really love how I did this green cook head and the rest of the elements. Uh, this one I called Treat for a New Friend, because for me it's the first page where I encounter the tiny cute spider, but then on the next pages he will participate in other mouse activities. So that was another one, and I think that it was first picture where I actually tested Arctics pencils. I hope that in the future I will use more Arctics here, because I really want to test this set better. But for the mouse I definitely intend to use my Prismacolors. I selected this color combo of Beige Sienna, Light Amber, Eggshell, 50% and 90% French Grey, and now I can color mouse quickly and easily everywhere. But to select colors for the heads, it's really very fun. So next, my mouse had afternoon party. He invited the bug and of course worm. I decided that here I will do very bright carrot cake, and then again it was quite nice to color all those flowers. I don't know if it's possible to understand that we have afternoon here, but I tried to do that like light dusk sky behind, using not blue but instead lavender and violet colors. Next one probably, oh no, that's one of my two favorites. Of course I colored this one for St. Patrick's Day, and it was quite fun to do the green hat, green jacket and also green clothes for the rest of the company. And look at this tiny bug, but he also has his own head. So for the background here I tested my Star Joy, my old set of them, not gold but old Star Joys, and actually for the backgrounds I think that they are quite okay, so I can save Prismacolors. and I intend to continue using them with their slightly harder lids and thin tips and bright colors. They can be a really nice budget choice for this book, so you don't need to use more precious pencils. And that's my second favorite. Again, for some of the elements I used Arctics pencils for the frame, for the window frame, for the wall, and for this chest of drawers. Then I switched to Prismacolors to finish mouse. I think that this painting flower pots picture is one of my favorites because I love everything about gardening, about house plants, and that's why I really love this one. And of course I selected blue and yellow. I noticed that I put this color combo now in many pictures. So I think that I have quite good result for March. I don't know if I managed to finish the whole book until the end of the spring, but I actually don't have such plans because many pictures here they are not connected to spring, so I can color them through the whole year. We have activity of the mouse inside of the house, we have many new friends, so this book will serve you through the whole year. But I also have summer book, so I will try somehow to combine both of them. Next, if we talk about cute creatures, apart from the cute mouse, I also colored here. It's my new addition to the coloring book collection. Evelyn kindly sent me her newest book. It's Sweet Critters World. Here, now we have it in full size. It's grayscale and very helpful for beginner colorists who are afraid to color animals if they are simply line art. Here we have picture made with line art, but animal or bird made with texture and grayscale shading. As my first picture, of course, I selected peacock. You know that I have a collection of peacocks from various artists, and of course I wanted to color peacock created by Evelyn. She created this beautiful hair piece in the style of Marie Antoinette, so that's how I called this picture Marie Antoinette, Her Majesty, Queen of Peacocks. Well, here it was interesting to use various materials. To do quick background, I used my Ohuhu markers. And I tried to combine several shades of blue, more classical blue and then more blue with a little bit of violet, because I knew that I want to use similar colors in the decoration and on the neck of the peacock. For the feathers and for the head, I used mostly polychromos pencils, but to create all those lines which we have on the feathers, on the tail, I used liners, actually quite helpful. I think that I started to use much more frequently my liners. I have those Ohuhu and I have some other Chinese brand, so they all have brush and liner tips, quite helpful when you need to add those delicate lines and when even Posca is too thick and rough, and that's when you can use a liner. It worked quite well on top of the layer of markers and even on top of pencils, so it helped me here. And then I added also a little bit of paint to make highlights on the hair and on the edges of the feathers. Well, I think that she looks quite nice, and I hope that in April I will do something else. I think about tortoise. Well, I don't know, maybe this one or maybe this one, because he is adorable and so elegant. I just have to decide what to do with the background, frame or just a little bit of shading behind his head. So that's where I have a little bit of doubt, so maybe it's easier to do. I think about this bottle and underwater world inside of it. And while I was waiting for the Creators Vault, I decided to do a picture in first book by Evelyn. It's Rose and Her Friends. Here I selected perfect spring picture. I think that it was first picture in spring spirit which I did this year, so it was like opening of season. Here again book is grayscale, so very easy to work shading on hair, on her face. My favorite medium for this book is polychromos pencils with their transparent pigment. You can see this helpful shading and you can easily layer them as much as you want to. So that was very pleasant coloring. I think that immediately when I looked at this page, I decided to make this small color connection between color of the frog and the strands of hair here. I think that it made a nice, interesting feature to the whole portrait, and then I used the same shades of a very light May green on her eyes. So I really happy that I managed to stay in limited color palette and everything works quite well together. So I can highly recommend this book if you want to color portraits, but if you are afraid of just line art. So I don't know what about March, but in May I definitely will color more in this book. Well, next we have my favorites of the months. I know that you are not agree with me if I look at the amount of likes and views, but I know that this crook series, it's not for everyone. Sometimes they are indeed a little bit disgusting, but Dark Queen and King probably is together with dark fairy tales. They are more suitable for everyone. They don't have a lot of cruel elements. And pictures which I selected, they are definitely not disgusting. Here we have this beautiful portrait of a king. I called him a winter king, and maybe because of the coat with fur. And I tried to stay in this cold winter palette. It was picture which I started in February and finished in March, so it was like transition from a winter to spring. Here for the very quick background I used again my Ohuhu markers. I think that without alcohol based markers I wouldn't be able to color in this book. I definitely don't have enough patience to do the background with pencils, especially on this thin paper. But when you do marker background, it's quick, easy, nice looking, quite suitable for this paper. And then on the details I work with polychromoses. On the skin I also add a little bit of Derwent drawings to make it blend better, but still polychromoses are my choice number one here. I think that I'm quite happy how everything looks here, starting from the metal, golden parts, dark fabric. Again, I'm glad that I stayed in relatively limited color palette, so I immediately goes to the beautiful decoration of the king, his crown and jewelry. And I am happy how I did fur. I imagine that we have here a wolf, coat made from wolf, so fur have to be mix of gray and brown. I blended several shades of gray and I also added Derwent drawings. They are quite helpful for fur. You know that they have nice shades of gray and brown colors. And then of course I used a lot of acrylic white and gray to mask black lines and to make it more fluffy. Well, the only area where I still don't know how to color in this book is their faces. They have these lines and shading which, well, somehow they made my portraits a little bit dirty. Yeah, they are they help to create this style of dark creatures. But yes, face probably is my least favorite element here, but the rest of it I am quite proud of myself. And the next one, of course, I decided to do this Julius Caesar. Here the face is even bigger problem because it has a very defined, very straight lines on his face and those strange eyes. In the end, I decided that okay, it will be like maybe ghost of the Julius Caesar. And here I also messed up a little bit on the background. I used two shades of warm gray. I don't know why I decided that it would be nice to use a lighter shade, like kind of halo around his head. Maybe it would be easier to use just one dark warm gray and then to add those sparkles which already were on the picture, so I wasn't able to get rid of them, and I decided to make them golden, to use them as a part of the page. So I don't like how two markers blended here. Apart from it, everything else was very fun to color. I enjoy to do metals, so again polychromos pencils and a lot of practice on them. Golden plates, then I imagine that central part of the armor is made maybe from leather, covered by leather, and then it is very Roman general, like I don't know how to call it in English. So you imagine that very suitable for the personage of Julius Caesar, this red coat. The only area where it was a little bit creepy to color is, of course, this well open wound on the in the central part of the stomach, the body. I tried to mask it a little bit, but then I hope that bright red color of the coat is distracts attention from the wound in the middle here. Yeah, creepy, but still a lot of fun. I wouldn't mind that those pictures don't have such elements, but I'm really grateful that Crook create very interesting male personages, and ladies here also are quite beautiful with interesting jewelry, interesting hairstyle, interesting details. But somehow I decided that if I have a book with a lot of male personages with pictures in from different countries and different time styles, we have Egyptian pharaohs, we have this Roman Empire, Julius Caesar, we have some medieval looking kings. So maybe I will first concentrate on such pictures and then I will color ladies. So they were definitely among my favorites, and I'm quite pleased with my own skills because I know that I'm not very good with those markers and I need practice how to do faces, but I think that at least the metal and fabric I managed to color in quite satisfying way, and I can see that my skills they improved during last years. Surprise, surprise, I colored in ivy. I hadn't expected it from myself, but my patrons asked me to return to this book, and I realized that I totally lost all my skills how to color in Johanna book. I think that last time I did something in Walls of Wonder, and there were tiny, tiny miniature pictures. So when I decided to return to ivy, I realized that I need to start from something safe, and what is safe for me it's flowers and metal. But here I had another big surprise. I enjoyed doing this spread, but I realized that my camera hates green colors. What she filmed when I did this one, it was crazy. I used a lot of polychromos pencils mixed with light Prismacolors to create gradient on the background. For me it was challenging. If I managed to do all those leaves together with green leaves together with green background. So I needed a lot of green pencils, but my camera she turned them into neon greens, and I had to do a lot of editing. But the top part, at least, I managed to do with, again, with polychromasis, a nice practice for the gold. And when I color flowers, of course, I tend to color them in more realistic way to think which real flowers they resemble. And for Johanna Basford, maybe that's not the best way to color her books. I much more enjoy pictures from other colorists when they use unusual color combos, unusual combos for the leaves, and that's what is still difficult for me. But as a first page made after a very uh, long period of not touching this book, of abandoning it, I think that it was not so bad, apart from all those problems with video. I think that right page I love a little bit more, maybe because I simply love this shape of this foxglove and those pencils in the middle. Surprisingly, this bright blue looks quite well with deep violet. I definitely need to explore this color combo more. And I do love this orange, magenta, violet flowers. I think that I also need to color more with such color palette. Left page is also nice here. I love those bells in the middle, but I'm not sure that those mushrooms on the foreground, that they are not like part of the whole composition. Anyway, I was happy when I finished this one, and because line art is beautiful and I didn't want to mess up. Then I decided that maybe to regain my skill, to get more practice, I need something more simple. So I also did this mandala. I think that I colored it 5 times faster comparing to the previous page. Usually I don't like mandalas because after I did part of it with unique elements, it's boring to repeat it many more times. But here, at least some of the elements, they weren't repeated so many times. And here, apart from Prismacolor pencils, because I, for that spread I used together polychromos and Prismacolors. Here I used Prismacolors, and I also used my Ohuhu liners. They helped me to get much more accurate lines here, some details. So I think that at least this one, it was relaxing. The previous one, it was challenging. In March, I finally started Magical Airs by Bank, my first picture by Bank. Usually, I promise myself that I don't need to select the most interesting picture as my first book from the as my first project from the new book, from the new artist. I need a little bit to get used to the style, to the paper probably. Here I decided that no, maybe I will start from this very inspiring picture because I had very clear ideas what I can do here. In the beginning I was thinking about a very apocalyptic, very dramatic picture with dark sky, totally decayed train, but then I looked at the girl and I realized that she is sitting quite peacefully. So I changed my idea behind this page, and I decided that maybe we have this train, maybe after some catastrophe, some train crash, train collision. So there are still areas of the burnt earth here, after the fire probably, but normal grass and even with flowers it starts to grow again, so nature takes its place and we have like repairing a moment with all those roots going through the train. So I had idea which helped me to select main colors, and I don't know what is bothering me. Maybe those strange things which I didn't know how to color, and for me they distract attention from the rest of the elements. Maybe because I started to color with color pencils, and I know they worked well on this paper, but somehow they didn't give me enough contrast on the tree trunks, on the roots, so I had to switch to polychromasis then to add darker color and even black here. So some of the elements, especially train with broken glass, with this faded paint, with the rusted metal here, I hope you can see it. So some of the elements I love, but something is like a little bit too much. Maybe this plant, maybe mostly those strange, I don't know what is this, puff of air, tiny clouds. So, well, not as perfect as it could be. Anyway, I hope that my next projects, which I will try to do with more simple pictures from this book, they will be better. At least I started my first cat and bank picture, and maybe I will use it as excuse that I need more of his books, because you know that Mythographic continues to publish new books, probably one book each 2 months, and all of them are very beautiful. So now, of course, I planned to do more in Mythographic series, and after this, well, slightly challenging coloring, not as easy as I expected, I decided to put it aside for a couple of weeks. But in April I will return to it, so please wish me luck that my next colorings will be easier. Well, so I do love this one, but just not 100% perfect. Well, now, of course, Teresa Goodrich. I don't think that I have any coloring months without her projects, but I try to switch between her various books. So for March, I selected Home Sweet Home and Main Street. Maybe let's start from Home Sweet Home, because picture here it's again about spring and about gardening. Look at this one, look at this beautiful hydrangea. When I looked at this home plants, I decided that I need to do it. Well, I'm very traditional, you know that I love to do all those watering cans, that I love to color flower pots. Well, the only element here which I totally ruined and which I greatly dislike is this flower. It looked a little bit childish from the beginning, but I totally failed to improve it a little bit. I wanted to make like maybe dog rose. Well, but it looked like something plastic stick to the wall of the greenhouse. But at least greenhouse, I think that I managed to do quite in good way. With all those reflections, highlights, I am proud that I managed to show that inside we have various plants, at least 2 trees, and that it totally made from glass, so there are a lot of reflections, a lot of highlights. Well, apart from this and these areas, the rest of it I absolutely love. Again, I used Prismacolors and a lot of Posca pens. Now in Main Street I did 2 pictures. Well, I had those thoughts about finishing this book one day, and if I want to finish it, then I need to color even pictures which are less inspiring, like this one. It's definitely not the best example of her pictures, and I'm not a big fan of coloring such elements inside of the shop windows. I am much more interested in architectural elements, but even here I managed to totally mess up with the column. I know why I didn't notice those lines, so it was wider originally, but then I managed to cover part of the column with dark blue, so I had to mask it also on the other side. Still, it's not very symmetrical. Well, it's very simple. I don't know what to say apart from just to plus 1 page to the book, which maybe one day I will finish. But to color tulips, it was fun. The next one is much more complicated, but it was more interesting to color. Prismacolors again. Very nice, interesting perspective here. Sometimes I think that Teresa pictures are too simple, like that picture with heads, but sometimes they are absolutely amazing. Those interesting street where we can see part of the buildings and this road going somewhere to the upper part of the town, probably. Well, I think that really it's one of her most interesting pictures in the whole book. So I'm glad that I waited for some time, that I didn't color it in the very beginning when I started the book, because now I think that I managed to do it in a better way. Usually when I color such streets, I try to vary colors for the buildings, so we have a little bit of cold colors, a little bit of warm colors. In such way you can look at it, you can see at various details, and I think that picture is just more interesting with all those tiny elements which you can find here and here. Well, this one definitely was a successful page. I am proud of it. And finally, I have my Kanoko Yaguza. And of course, I selected probably the best spring spread in the whole book here. Originally, I was thinking about doing only a left side, because here we have those beautiful mimosa wreaths. For me, this mimosa, those tiny yellow fluffy flowers, they are best symbol of March. When I was small, mimosa was the most traditional and only one available flower to give to the mothers to the 8th of March for the Women's Day. So for me it was like from my childhood symbol of March. So everyone tried to purchase mimosa and to give to the mother, to the grandmother. And of course, when I found it in this book, I wanted to color it. And I think that all those yellow and orange yellow mimosa flowers, they combined very well with colors of crocuses. Here we have several of them, so I divided them into two groups, more violet and more bluish. Well, I didn't know what we have here, so for those round things I was inspired by decorative allium. They are also very interesting plants. I'm not sure if they are spring or summer, but I saw them and they are in variety of violet, magenta, blue colors. Here I also tried to recreate their texture. Very interesting. And for those botanical details, I simply used the same colors which I used for the second type of leaves. Well, it was a big green coloring, a long way. I combined Prismacolors and polychromases because I still think that green from polychromases are more beautiful, but this paper probably better for Prismacolors. Prismacolors helped me to work on the light areas of the leaves, and polychromases helped me to create darker and shadow parts. Well, I think that I was right when I did very light, almost invisible blue shading behind the rest without any intense background. So when I finished this one, I realized that maybe I can use some of the colors also for the right side. Here we have this spring forest. And now what can I say? I colored flowers very quickly because I think that I already got some skills how to do flowers. But of course I had here two challenging areas. First was fox. Believe me, I didn't know what I had on the original page. It was difficult for me to say if it's a young bear, like bear cub, probably. Well, it was young fox. In the end, I decided that maybe it looked more like fox. When I colored it also, looked like a raccoon and like a wolf when I added different colors, so it changed. Only when I added yellow and orange it started to look like fox. It was fun because I started with gray colors and for part it looked like a raccoon or a wolf. Well, and yeah, fox also was challenging, but by combining Prismacolors and polychromoses again, because Prismacolors help you to put basic color and to cover paper, and polychromoses helps you to get this texture of individual hairs on the fur and to do better contrast. So fox I managed to color, but all those elements of the green, we have pine trees, we have bushes, we have a lot of grass. Well, that was a struggle, and probably for the first time I tried to add to the green colors, various green colors, also a little bit of brown, a little bit of gray. So I think that it helped me to make the landscape behind the flowers, behind the fox, a little bit more interesting. And I also started to use more of my various pens and markers. I remember that I also have my Pitt pens, and they combine nicely with polychromos pencils, so I use them for a little bit of leaves texture on top part. Well, I was proud of myself because at some of the moment when I did this area, I did birch trees easily, but when I started to do green part, I was afraid that everything will be like mess of green shades. But then when I added browns, the whole picture started to get depth and perspective. So I am proud that I managed to do it. Well, it wasn't quick, but it was very satisfying. When you look at it at the final result, you really feel that you gained some skills and that your coloring really improves with time and with practice. That's probably all. I have one work in progress here in Kolorowanka. I just started page with spring flowers. Nothing yet to show you, but it's very enjoying and very sweet project. Here I try to color in a little bit different way. Usually I mask my black lines when I finish to color with pencils. I use my acrylic markers on top of pencils to mask lines, especially on leaves and flowers. Here I decided that maybe I will mask lines first with gel pen, with Posca, and on top of it I work with Prismacolors. Well, it's slower coloring, not as quick as I usually color, but maybe in the end I will get more painterly look of my page. Maybe it's just to have some variety of my coloring. I will show you the final result of this one in my finished works of April. Well, thank you, and I hope that I will manage to find something interesting for April also. Of course, I intend to continue my spring mouse, and I think that I will color a lot of flowers because spring is definitely season for pictures with flowers. Thank you, and I wish you a very pleasant springtime.